We begin today's episode in Cerise Park. Ash and all of his Pokemon are vigorously training, already getting ready for the next battle. Kleavor, Darmanitan, Lucario, and Marshtomp all spar against each other. Darmanitan and Lucario are impressed by Kleavor's newfound power. Meanwhile, Marshtomp is making some good progress as well, using its counter and mirror coat abilities to reflect attacks back at its opponents. However, it tries movements similar to Greninja when it was using Night Slash. The other members of the team also spar, Pikachu and Thwackey training together, while Gengar and Dragonite test the newest member of the team, Tyranitar. Goh comes out to the park, finding Ash as he calls different attacks on occasion. Goh lets out the other members of his team before joining Ash. Two look around, seeing what they've already managed to accomplish. Goh sees all the other Pokemon he's been catching, as he still has caught some Pokemon over time, while I haven't been mentioning every time a capture occurs. He and Ash are both happy about what they've managed to do so far, and look forward to what they can do in the future. That's when Goh gets a notification on his phone. It's from Project Mew. Not only is he going to receive some points for the picture of Dialga and Palkia he sent in, but they have another mission for him. There had been strange energy readings coming from the Kanto power plant, and so it's his job to find out what's going on. Should it be a rare Pokemon, or even a legendary, he'll gain bonus points if he captures it, or can provide some sort of evidence it was there. Ash and Goh end up at the power plant, only to eventually run into Team Rocket. When they question them for why they're here, Team Rocket explains that they're just looking into whether this would be a good second base or not. However, they soon hear a cry, which, after following, leads them to Zapdos. The group decide to join forces. After all, an opportunity like this wasn't one any of them could pass up. While Goh didn't really like the idea of working alongside anyone in Team Rocket, if it meant he can potentially catch Zapdos, he was going to take it. The four send out their own Pokemon, Ash going with Tyranitar, Goh choosing Cinderace, and Jesse and James choosing Sandaconda and Galarian Weezing respectively. The four begin their assault on the legendary Bird of Thunder. While agreeing to work together, for the most part it seems like they're two completely different teams. They get in each other's ways, sometimes they'll accidentally hit each other with their attacks, and overall they have a disadvantage despite their numbers. Soon they realize this and begin to work together. James will have Galarian Weezing use Strange Steam, only for Goh and Cinderace to ignite it with Pyro Ball. Tyranitar and Sandaconda work together pretty well, as Sandaconda enjoys the sandstorm created by Tyranitar's ability. Soon, they actually begin to do some heavy damage to Zapdos. Their combined attacks and sandstorm damage is taking its toll. Cinderace tries to go in for a double kick, however the attack misses due to Zapdos flying up. It begins to fly away, but the group won't let it. Galarian Weezing attempts to fly after it, while Sandaconda tries to use Glare to paralyze it. Unfortunately, paralysis doesn't work on electric types, so Galarian Weezing is the only one getting in close. However, it isn't fast enough. Zapdos has a good distance on it and is about to fly through the broken glass in the ceiling. Goh quickly tries to come up with a strategy. He gets asked to position Tyranitar, and using the pseudo-legendary as a springboard, Cinderace uses Bounce, flying up after the Zapdos. James catches on to the idea, and allows Cinderace to use Galarian Weezing as a boost as well. Cinderace shoots upwards and gets really close to Zapdos. Cinderace manages to strike with a bounce, followed up with a double kick. Zapdos falls to the ground and Goh attempts to catch it. He gets close, however Zapdos breaks out with a lightning strike and flies away. The group give a collective sigh. However, the broken Pokeball acts as a memento to the battle, one which Goh can send to Project Mew. Ash is about to thank Team Rocket for their help, only for the group to already be on their way. They tell Ash that while they fought together, this doesn't change anything. Next time they meet, it'll be the same as always. As they leave, Goh says he can't get a read on them. At one point they're working together, the next they're trying to steal other people's Pokemon, like Pikachu. Ash shrugs, saying that things do seem a little different, as they didn't immediately try to steal Pikachu. Plus, Thwackey and Marshtomp seem to be reflections that the Team Rocket trio aren't as bad as they seem. With that, they head back to Cerise Labs. The next day, they wake up to find a strange request. Ash has actually been invited to a dinner at Macrocosmos by none other than the chairman himself. Professor Cerise was the one to receive the request and relays it to Ash, saying the chairman was wanting to get to know Ash as he'd heard many great things from Leon, and would like to formally meet as they didn't really speak to each other when they first crossed paths. Goh mentions that Chairman Rose was the one Bede used to work for, and he quickly becomes suspicious. Ash does find it curious as well, but he remembers Bede's actions got him disqualified from the World Championships, so Rose didn't condone those actions. Professor Cerise says it's best Ash go to the dinner, regardless of their feelings for Rose or those associated. Goh agrees and says he'll come along, although as he wasn't invited, he was just gonna have to take the time to try and catch more Pokemon around the area. So with that, they're off to the Galar region once more. Arriving in Wyndon, Ash heads to the tower that is Macrocosmos' headquarters. Goh watches Ash meet a few of Macrocosmos' employees, who escort him inside. Goh can't explain it, but he feels a little uneasy with Ash going to see Chairman Rose. He knows Ash will be fine, but he still can't help but feel like something bad could be going on. He walks closer to the building, when he bumps into a man. It turns out to be Peony. He tries to call out for Peony, only for him to try and leave. Confused, Goh follows him. Ash is brought up on an elevator to a restaurant within the Macrocosmos building. Sitting at a table near the window is Chairman Rose, with Oleana not too far away. Ash joins them and the chairman welcomes him, before having the chefs of the fine dining establishment bring them their meal. Chairman Rose says he's glad Ash could make it, as he's been very interested to meet him. As the food begins rolling in, Chairman Rose talks about how, for some reason, Ash's rise in the World Championships has gotten the attention of even Leon. Leon, who's battled multiple trainers throughout the course of his Pokemon training career, seems to have his eye on Ash specifically. Leon has talked about Ash quite a few times with him, and Chairman Rose has only become more intrigued by this Kanto-born trainer. Ash is glad to know that Leon has been talking about him, as he's been wanting to have a battle with Leon again. After all, that's part of why he joined the World Championships in the first place. Rose nods, saying he's gotten the chance to see a few of Ash's battles now. Because of how excited Leon seemed to be by the prospect of Ash's rise, Rose did his homework, and goes as far to say that he's impressed by Ash's skill. Ash had taken down many trainers around the world, including some of Galar's own, like Milo, Kabu, and Alistair, which is no easy task. Ash notes that he's gotten a bit of help. His training with Bee and Mustard had helped him grow stronger, and he's had friends pushing him the entire time. Rose is actually surprised to hear Ash had trained with Mustard, mentioning that Mustard had not only trained Leon, but was both a gym leader and a formerly undefeated champion himself. So Ash's training with Mustard was a very high honor. Rose cuts to the chase. As Ash starts digging into the well-prepared meal, Rose tells him he wants to sponsor him. He hasn't sponsored many trainers, but those he has have risen to great heights, the highest of which being Leon. The only exception to this is Bede, who he feels ashamed of, as Bede chose to act in ways unbecoming of someone he would sponsor. However, regardless of that, Rose can tell if a trainer has potential, and he sees potential in Ash. So he asks him if he would be interested in becoming a trainer sponsored by him. We get to Goh, who is finally caught up to Peony. He asks what's going on, to which Peony tries to play dumb, saying he was simply just looking for his darling daughter. While Goh does believe that part, he still thinks there's more to it. Peony keeps trying to act as though he doesn't know what Goh is talking about, but soon he cracks and says he'll tell Goh everything. Peony sighs, looking off into the distance to see the Macrocosmos tower. He then begins to tell Goh a story. He has an older brother, who for years has been seen as more successful than him. Peony and his brother used to be close, even catching their first Pokemon together. However, the more success his brother got, the more distant his brother became. Peony ended up going off on his own, becoming a Steel-type gym leader. Then at one point, he managed to gain the rank of champion, after beating multiple trainers, including his brother and the former champion of that time. However, his brother still managed to overshadow him, using his status with his important company to gain a high position in the Pokemon League. Not too long after that, Peony decided to leave, feeling his brother was trying to push him out. He wasn't planning on coming to Winden, but there was a battle happening in the stadium later that night, and Peony wanted to see it. She got out of his sight, and while trying to find her, Peony found himself staring at the Macrocosmos building. Goh asks if his brother that he's referring to is Chairman Rose, to which Peony nods. This only gives Goh more reason to be worried, as he tells Peony that Ash is currently meeting with Rose. Peony tells Goh that if Ash has been scouted by his brother, Rose probably has other motives as well. When Goh asks what he means, Peony mentions that Rose used to talk about how he was going to use strong trainers to save Galar, whatever that meant. Goh says that doesn't sound all too bad, but from what? Peony says he doesn't know, but Rose had started saying that after an accident with her father back when they were just children. Back with Ash and Rose, the chairman has been waiting for Ash to stop eating and accept his proposal. However, Ash declines it. When the chairman asks why, Ash just says he wants to travel the world and forge his own path. He's glad to have friends to help him along the way, but he doesn't think he needs the resources of a company to grow stronger. Oleana is furious, but Rose calms her down. He looks to the wind and skyline, and begins to talk about a different subject. He says that he's so grateful to have been lifted out of poverty, and wants to preserve the very best of Galar. Not just the region, but the trainers within it. Ash asks what he's talking about, and Rose changes the subject again, quickly. He hands Ash some tickets, saying that those are to a Masters 8 match that night. He knows Ash usually hangs around a friend of his, and says he hopes the two attend. Ash asks why, but Rose says it's a surprise. Then he knows Ash will be interested in. Oleana leans in, whispering something to Rose. With that, Rose stands, apologizing for having to leave so soon, but something has been brought to his attention and he must take care of business. He thanks Ash for his time, and once again says he hopes to see Ash in the stands of the night's match. After Ash finishes dinner, he leaves the tower, meeting with Goh near the Pokemon Center. He's surprised to see Peony with Goh, but immediately Goh asks what Ash and Rose had talked about. Ash says Rose wanted to sponsor him, but he said no. Then he shows the tickets to the Masterclass battle for the night. Peony mentions that Peony was wanting to watch that battle, so the three decide to go together. At Winden Stadium, Ash and Goh take their seats, while Peony goes looking around the stadium for Peony. Not too long after he leaves, though, Peony actually just shows up. joining them after saying she wasn't wanting to be around her dad, as he tends to be a bit much. Ash doesn't really get why Peony wouldn't want to be around a fun guy like Peony, even saying that she's lucky to have a dad that cares about her. However, Peony doesn't agree. Then, the battle starts the introduction phase. Much to Ash and Goh's surprise, this is a battle between Elan and Raihan. The two are currently ranked the lowest out of all of the Masters 8, with Elan ranked at 8th and Raihan ranked at 7th. It ends up being a double battle, with Elan using Charizard and a new Pokemon in a Mimikyu to face Raihan's Duraludon and Flygon. The two battle fiercely, with Raihan using the Sandstorm set up by Flygon, as well as the power of Gigantamax with Duraludon, to his immediate advantage. However, Elan still puts up a good fight, showing how his Mega Charizard X is as strong as ever. The battle ends surprisingly in a draw, as both sides take each other out over time. With that, Elan and Raihan shake hands, the two both knowing they've grown from this. The only question is, which of them will get the chance to face Leon for the title of World Champion? After the battle, Chairman Rose appears on the monitor of the arena. He thanks everyone for coming and tells them that the battles aren't over here, as starting the next morning, there will be another battle festival. Multiple trainers currently in the Galar region have been hand-selected for all Ultra-Class Battle Festival, and the 8 decided upon will battle the next day. He then reveals the trainers. Names and faces appear on the monitor. B, Nessa, Marnie, Gordy, Iris, Paulo, AJ, and finally, Ash. With this announcement, Ash now realizes why Chairman Rose wanted him at the Masters 8 match. It was all to tell Ash he was now part of the next battle festival. He was going to need to prepare, as the next day, he would have to battle his way up the ranks. The next day, Ash gets ready, putting together all 3 of his items: the Mega Glove, the Z Power Ring, and the Dynamax Band. He could only use one per battle, but he was going to need to figure out what his strategies would be for each fight. Some of these trainers he had met before, but the same amount of people were ones he had never fought against. Goh asks him if he's ready, and Ash nods. Once he makes it to the stadium, he goes out onto the pitch with the other competitors. Each of them were ready for whatever came next, and soon, the matchups were revealed. B versus Iris, Paulo versus Gordy, AJ versus Marnie, and finally, Ash versus Nessa. With that, it's time for the battles to begin. So those who aren't fighting are sent off, while B and Iris take the stage. The rankings are shown, revealing B as rank 28, while Iris is rank 53. The crowd believes this will result in B's victory, even though Iris is a champion. This is a battle Ash is very interested in, as B was the one he trained with, while Iris is who he's traveled with. Both he's seen to be very strong, as he's fought them already. So, who's gonna win? The battle is a 3-on-3, with B using her fighting-type Pokemon to combat Iris's dragons. She uses her Hawlucha and Grapploct to take out Iris's Excadrill and Dragonite. However, her Pokemon are taken down in the process as well, leading the final battle to be her Machamp against Iris's Haxorus. B tries to use Gigantamax to gain the edge, but in the end, Iris is able to use Breaking Swipe to decrease Machamp's attack, and while using Psycho Cut to hit hard, eventually taking down Machamp and winning the battle. A dramatic upset, as B did seem to be the favorite for the battle. Next is rank 42 Paulo versus rank 38 Gordy. And Gordy is the one to win, using his Rock-type Pokemon to mess up Paulo's team. Paulo is able to fight back pretty well when using its ace Lycanroc, but Gordy's Gigantamax Colossal is able to defeat him regardless. Third battle is, of course, rank 31 Marnie and rank 32 AJ. However, something strange happens, as AJ is slightly late to the battle. When he shows up, he seems tired. And throughout the battle, his Pokemon are worn out, allowing Marnie to easily defeat them and rank up to 29. However, she doesn't seem happy after the win. As AJ calls back his Sand Slash, she looks up into the stands, seeing multiple punk-dressed people who are cheering for her. She groans before exiting the battlefield. The final battle is Ash versus Nessa. It's another 3-on-3 battle, and once again, Nessa seems to be the favorite, due to this being her home region. Her rank is lower than Ash's, being 49. However, as Iris vs. B showed, rank doesn't decide the battle's outcome. The battle starts off with Marshtomp vs. Golisopod. Using First Impression, Golisopod gets an early hit, only for Marshtomp to counter it, and deal some good damage back. Ash lowers Golisopod's speed with Mud Shot. However, after some more hits, Golisopod switches out due to emergency exit. Nessa brings down Pelipper instead, whose drizzle steps up the rain. She then uses Tailwind, while Ash tries to get a hit off with Water Gun. After the Tailwind is set up, she switches back into Golisopod, who First Impressions again. Once again, Marshtomp counters this. However, while Ash's Marshtomp used Mud Shot, Golisopod sets up a Sword Stance, goes in with a Shadow Claw, and Marshtomp counters once again. Both attacks hit, resulting in a double knockout right off the bat. The two bring out Pikachu and Pelipper respectively. Despite the speed, Pikachu is able to defeat Pelipper after catching its wings in an Electro Whip, before thunderbolting it. Nessa brings in her last Pokemon next, Dreadnought. Immediately, Nessa goes for the Gigantamax, bringing out Gigantamax Dreadnought. It goes for the G-Max Stone Surge, blowing Pikachu back. It then uses Max Darkness, finishing Pikachu off. Ash takes Pikachu back to his side of the field before he brings in Thwackey. Thwackey is hurt by the Stealth Rock set up through G-Max Stone Surge, but the grassy terrain from it entering the field heals it back up. Dreadnought goes for another G-Max Stone Surge, which Thwackey doesn't take well. However, now Dreadnought loses Gigantamax state. This doesn't stop Nessa's offensive assault, though. With the Swift Swim ability and the Tailwind, Dreadnought attacks with Liquidation and Crunch. Thwackey is able to keep up with Grassy Glide, resulting in the two speeding across the battlefield, hitting each other multiple times throughout. Eventually, the rain dissipates, with the Tailwind not having much time either. This is what Ash takes advantage of. Using Grassy Glide to approach, he has Thwackey leap into the air with acrobatics before bringing down Wood Hammer. Nessa tries to have Dreadnought use Crunch while Thwackey is in midair, so Dreadnought extends its neck to combat Thwackey. However, in the end, Ash still comes out on top. His rank goes up to 35 with this win, and he's now moving on to the next round. The tournament takes a brief intermission after revealing Iris will face Gordy, and Ash will face Marnie. Ash goes out to strategize with his team, deciding what Pokemon to use next. However, Ash is soon met with a group of punk rockers who try to attack him. He's able to beat them by using Lucario and Kleavor, and they run off. However, another group of them show up later. These ones only trying to distract Ash. He keeps running into these people to the point where he misses Iris battling against Gordy. Iris actually manages to beat Gordy using a mix of newer Pokemon, like her Garchomp and Goodra. Then, it's down to Ash versus Marnie. Yet at the beginning of the battle, Marnie is the only one there. The referee gives Ash some time to show up, and Marnie apologizes, saying she has a good feeling she knows why he's late. Meanwhile, as Ash is being constantly bombarded by these strange people, a new guy appears, ordering to stop. Ash notices the symbol on his shirt is similar to the ones on the shirts of the punk rockers. After the group listens to this new person, the man apologizes. He says that he created this group, who call themselves Team Yell, in order to cheer for his sister. However, they seem to be getting out of hand. He tells Ash to get going. Ash tries to get his name, but he doesn't elaborate, just reminding Ash he's late. Ash nods before leaving, thanking the man as he goes. Ash finally gets to the battlefield, meaning he can start the match. Up in the stands, they hear Team Yell berating Ash for making Marnie wait, only for Ash to snap back that they were the reason he was late in the first place. Learning this, Marnie berates her fans as well, as she doesn't want to win by default, or for the battle to be made easier for her in the end. Marnie apologizes to Ash, to which he says it's fine, as he and his Pokemon can still give it their all. The referee asks if they're ready to go, and the two nod, both expressing that they'll be the one to win. The battle begins, and Ash brings out Lucario to combat Marnie's Liepard. Marnie goes for Fake Out in order to flinch Lucario. However, with its ability Inner Focus, it doesn't flinch in the face of this attack, allowing Lucario to counter with a point-blank Aura Sphere. Liepard is launched backwards, but Marnie calls for Torment, which Liepard is still able to use. Unable to go for the same move twice in a row, Ash now calls for Double Team, which Marnie chooses to switch against. She brings out Toxicroak, who is able to combat Lucario's Double Team by using Earthquake. Immediately after, she follows up with a Drain Punch, sapping some of Lucario's energy. Ash, realizing despite his experience battling Toxicroak due to Saturn, that there isn't much he can do to defeat Toxicroak with, chooses to swap out Lucario. He brings in Gengar next, believing the Ghost-type's speed and versatile moveset can give him the win. Sure enough, Gengar's ability to phase through things, and its psychic attack results in Toxicroak being defeated in the end. Marnie calls out Liepard, and quickly uses Snarl. The super effective attack results in Gengar taking a serious hit, while also boosting Liepard's special attack. Ash decides to switch out once again, wanting to save Gengar for later. He brings out Lucario once again, going for Bullet Punch, and following up with Meteor Mash. The multiple hits do a lot to Liepard, however Marnie switches again, this time bringing out her ace, Grimmsnarl. While Bullet Punch lands for a super effective hit, Grimmsnarl takes the time to bulk up, before hitting a Spirit Break. This hits Lucario critically, and after being followed up with a Stomping Tantrum, Lucario falls. This is pretty bad, as Lucario is one of Ash's heaviest hitters. It also means Ash can't use Mega Evolution in battle. Ash calls Lucario back, before sending in Kleavor. This Pokemon actually shocks the entire stadium, as none of them have even ever seen or heard of a Kleavor before. Kleavor, wanting to do well in its first battle since evolving, runs in with an X-Scissor. The attack hits Grimmsnarl hard, and realizing she needs to preserve her ace, withdraws it from battle. Liepard comes back out and is able to flinch Kleavor with Fake Out. Ash and Marnie both choose to set up, using Swords Dance and Nasty Plot at the same time. However, while Ash goes in with a Stone Axe, Marnie is able to have Liepard dodge and use Torment. As the two begin exchanging more blows, Ash realizes the difference here. While Kleavor is able to brute force its way through, Liepard is much faster, making it easier for the leopard Pokemon to dodge the swinging axe attacks of Kleavor. Despite this, Kleavor doesn't give up, going for multiple close combats and X-Scissors. After battling for so long, it's on its last legs, so Kleavor goes for Stone Axe. and despite getting hit with another powerful snarl, Cleavor knocks out Lightheart before collapsing in exhaustion. This brings them both down to their last Pokemon. Ash and Marnie bring them out, both Gengar and Grimmsnarl being damaged, but still ready to battle. Grimmsnarl seems to be very serious, so of course, Gengar makes a few faces to taunt Marnie's ace. Marnie immediately goes for setting up Bulk Up, while Ash has Gengar try to confuse Grimmsnarl by sporadically moving around. As it attempts this, Grimmsnarl manages to get off a Spirit Break, which stops Gengar's movements. Marnie then goes for Stomping Tantrum, which launches Gengar away from them. In the crowd, Team Yell all cheer for Marnie in a very melodic way, with her looking up to see one of them is her brother Piers, who yells out to Marnie, saying she's got to win for the pride of Spikemouth. This actually catches Ash's attention. What does he mean by the pride of Spikemouth? Marnie looks up to her brother and nods. She reveals the Dynamax band on her arm and exclaims that she wouldn't be able to use this back home, but she's able to go all out here. With this, she Gigantamaxes her Grimmsnarl. Ash responds in kind, Gigantamaxing Gengar. He looks up to Gengar, who he knows is always excited to fight Gigantamax Pokemon. He calls out to it, saying they'll be one step closer to facing the Master's 8 if they win here. With that, the two trainers call for their attacks. Gengar goes for Max Ooze, which Grimmsnarl attempts to block and counter with Max Quake. However, the attack still manages to get through. Frustrated, Marnie calls for G-Max Snooze, and Ash calls for G-Max Terror. Both attacks hit, doing a lot of damage. However, the G-Max Snooze makes Gengar drowsy. Marnie then goes for G-Max Snooze once again, as it's her strongest attack. Here, Ash decides to counter, calling for Max Starfall. Both attacks hit their targets, and as both revert from their G-Max states, a misty terrain rolls in. Gengar disappears into the mist. However, Marnie believes she'll still be able to hit him, as Gengar would be asleep due to the drowsiness, and has Grimmsnarl go in with a Darkest Lariat. However, Gengar is nowhere to be seen once Grimmsnarl thrashes through the pink mist. That's when Ash calls for Gengar to reappear and use Dazzling Gleam. Due to the increased power of fairy moves, Dazzling Gleam hits Grimmsnarl even harder. Grimmsnarl falls down onto one knee, and Marnie yells for Grimmsnarl to get up. Team Yell and Piers do the same. However, despite all this, Grimmsnarl collapses completely. The misty terrain disappears, and the battle is over. Ash is declared the winner, ranking up to rank 27. He and Gengar are very proud. However, Marnie still seems pretty upset. Ash and Gengar walk over to her. He holds out a hand, saying it was a great battle. Marnie says that's easy for him to say. He was the winner of it. Which she doesn't understand, as Gengar should have been asleep. That's when Ash brings up how Misty Terrain was a saving grace there, as it prevents status ailments. Marnie's actually kind of surprised by this. She didn't know it prevented the drowsiness of G-Max Snooze. She hadn't had to deal with Misty Terrain much, and her own was never a problem. Of course, that doesn't help the fact she lost. She wanted to show people that Spikemouth was strong, yet she still lost to him. That's when she notices the applause beginning to come from the stands. There are people cheering for Ash, but just as many people are cheering for her. She looks to her brother and Team Yell, who all still seem proud of her. Ash looks around and says maybe she still did, even if she didn't win the battle. Which brings us to the final round. much to the surprise of the announcer and the audience. In this Galar set battle festival, the two non-Galarian participants have been the ones to move to the finals. Iris, the champion of Unova, who had been training in Galar for the time being, and Ash Ketchum, a Lola's champion, and the trainer who Leon's had his eyes set on. The two are given the chance to prepare, and so Ash goes on his own to try and figure out what his strategies should be. He meets back up with Goh, and the two begin to strategize. Ash has 3 powerhouses he hasn't shown off in battle yet: Dragonite, Galarian Darmanitan, and Tyranitar. Each of those will be capable of handling dragon types. However, Iris is still no joke. She's clearly more powerful than she was last time, so he has to be ready. She's also seen Dragonite and Galarian Darmanitan in battle before. The two think about what they can do, and after a while, they think they've got an idea. So, they head back, getting ready for the battle to begin. In the stands, Goh is a little uncertain of Ash's ability to beat Iris. The strategy seems good, but they still aren't sure about what Pokemon Iris is going to be using. What else does she have up her sleeve? The battle begins, and the two send out Tyranitar and Excadrill. Both immediately call for Stealth Lock, setting up against each other. Then, just as Ash is about to call for Fire Blast, Excadrill launches itself forward, hitting with an Iron Head. This catches Tyranitar off guard and causes it to flinch. Excadrill then hits Tyranitar with Toxic, before Iris switches it out. She brings in Garchomp next, setting up Sword Stance. Ash calls out Ice Beam, which Tyranitar hits Garchomp with, managing to freeze it to the ground. Tyranitar is damaged by Toxic, and so Ash tries to call it back. However, Tyranitar actually refuses. It hasn't been out in battle long, so it wants to keep going. At first, Ash is reluctant about this, but he nods, before having it Ice Beam the ground in front of him. Once it does, he has Tyranitar slide in. Iris counters this though, calling for Scale Shot. The scales fired by Garchomp do a lot of damage to Tyranitar, but still Ash's Pokemon is able to land a powerful crunch. With that, and the weight of Tyranitar sliding across the ground, Garchomp is broken out of the ice while being thrown across the battlefield. Ash then has Tyranitar Fire Blast Garchomp, only for Iris to have Garchomp destroy the attack with Fire Fang. The two charge in once again, attacking at close range and doing significant damage to each other. Then, as Tyranitar does a point-blank Ice Beam, and Garchomp stomps the ground to cause an earthquake, the two knock each other out. Iris isn't too surprised by this, though. Even with Ash's Tyranitar being badly poisoned, she had a feeling Ash would find a way to even things out. The two swap out their fainted Pokemon, bringing an Excadrill and Galarian Darmanitan. Darmanitan roars at Excadrill before beating both fists together. Iris has battled Galarian Darmanitan before, so she believes it won't be a problem. The two Pokemon go in, using Flare Blitz and Iron Head. The two clash at the same time, knocking each other back. As Excadrill goes in with a Drill Run, Darmanitan breaks the ground in front of it with Ice Punch, sending dirt and stones up to block the attack. Then, Darmanitan smacks Excadrill away. Iris tells Excadrill to use Toxic once again. However, Ash quickly comes up with a strategy. He has Darmanitan use Flare Blitz while standing still, causing the flames to surround the Pokemon, defending it against the poison. With the heat building, Ash has Darmanitan rush in with it. Darmanitan rockets forward with intense fiery power so great, it decimates Excadrill. Excadrill is knocked out, and Ash claims another victory. However, Iris still has one Pokemon left. She pulls out a Pokeball, and tells Ash that in her training to become the champion Unova could be proud of, she met a Pokemon that helped her with her fear of ice types. Ash then realizes that in both their battles, she didn't once flinch in the face of his Ice-type Pokemon, like she would have in the past. Iris throws out a Pokeball, and out comes a new Pokemon that almost nobody had seen her use before. Only one person had seen it, and that was Gordy, who remarks to himself that this is the same Pokemon as his mother's Ace. That's right, Iris has brought out a brand new Lapras. Ash can already tell this Pokemon of Iris's is strong. He tells Darmanitan to go in for a superpower. Darmanitan beats both fists together before going in for the attack. It hits off the move, only for it to seemingly do nothing to Lapras. The super effective hit didn't phase either the Pokemon or the trainer. Iris smiles as she watches Darmanitan try multiple ice punches afterwards. Then, she simply calls for Horn Drill. It only takes a single hit, and Darmanitan goes down. It didn't even get the chance to use Belly Drum or go into Zen mode. Ash calls back Darmanitan, telling it did well, and to rest up. Dragonite is the final Pokemon to come out. Iris is glad to see her again, and even apologizes that she won't get to see Haxorus this time. However, Dragonite doesn't mind, as Ash calls for her to get ready. They set up a Dragon Dance before going in for Dual Wing Beat. Lapras takes the hits well before countering with Freeze Drum. Dragonite takes a heavy blow, and Ash asks if she's alright. She nods before letting out a battle cry, which reminds him of his fight with Karina. Dragonite seems ready to battle, but in control, unlike back then. He smiles before calling for Dragonite to use Dragon Dance once again. Dragonite spins in the air while Iris calls for another Freeze Drum. However, Ash tells Dragonite to blow it away by increasing her spinning speed. This manages to work, and the attack is avoided. Ash then tells her to unleash their strongest move, Outrage. Dragonite flies in, eyes glowing red, before striking Lapras with a critical blow. This gets through to Lapras, as does the second Outrage hit. Iris decides to heal her Pokemon by having it use Rest, so Lapras goes to sleep. This doesn't keep Dragonite from making up for the damage being healed, as the third and final hit strikes with great force. Dragonite gets confused due to the fatigue, so Ash spends some time trying to break through to her. He calls out to the Dragon Pokemon, but the confusion doesn't quite break, until Lapras wakes from its rest. Iris calls for a Sheer Cold, another one-hit KO move. However, this one actually misses its mark, giving Ash a good opportunity to use Dual Wing Beat with Dragonite once again. The dual attacks hit Lapras hard, however Ash then makes a minor mistake. He calls for Aqua Tail, and rather than the attack doing damage, it heals Lapras, revealing it to have the ability Water Absorb. Iris then chooses to wrap this up, saying she won't hold back, before revealing a Dynamax band. With this, she Gigantamaxes Lapras, and calls for G-Max Resonance. The icy attack crashes down on Dragonite, and an Aurora Veil forms in front of Lapras. When it settles, Ash calls out to Dragonite. The Dragon Pokemon slowly gets back up. Ash looks happy at first, but then Dragonite falls to the ground again. Lapras reverts to its normal form once again, and the battle is over. Ash is left stunned. Just how much stronger was Iris going to get? A closing ceremony happens, and Iris is congratulated by Leon himself, as he had actually been watching this tournament take place. Ash finds he hadn't dropped in rank too much. He was now at rank 32. Iris, however, had surpassed him and gotten one step closer to the Masters 8. This just made him more fired up, though, and he looks forward to battling her again. Chairman Rose then thanks all the trainers for battling, and everyone for watching. As everyone begins to leave, Ash and Goh meet up with Peony and Peony once more. Peony tells Ash he did a great job in battle, and that he and Peony both think he'll be able to make it to the Master's 8. Just as Peony is about to argue that her father shouldn't speak for her, a red beacon of light shows up in the distance. Others seem to see this as well, as Leon calls out Charizard, flying off in the direction of the beam. Ash and Goh both agree they should see what's going on as well, and Peony offers to give them a ride, stating that he had a flying ship of Project Mew's with them. The four get inside and fly off towards it. As they reach the beacon, which is just outside Hammerlock Stadium, they find a Berserker going berserk, having Dynamaxed seemingly out of nowhere. They get out and meet up with Leon. The group decide to battle the Berserker together, combining the powers of Kleavor, Cinderace, Charizard, and Koharu. The four take down the Dynamax Pokemon. Leon thanks them for the help, before mentioning Peony looks awfully familiar. Frantically, Peony denies this before taking Peony away, saying he'll have another mission for Goh soon enough. Ash and Goh look at each other confused before saying goodbye to Leon, and soon heading back to Kanto. Meanwhile, Oleana is looking at the readings for Galar particles. There had been a major spike in energy. She gets a call from her boss, who asks what had happened. She explains that combining the power of the Legend Plate with the Pokemon this early on had caused a major spike in Galar particles. It allowed a major output of energy, but in the process it caused a wild Berserker to randomly Dynamax. Her boss simply tells her to keep experimenting. So long as they don't cause any harm to Galar as a region, they'll be just fine. The call ends, before Oleana looks through a window. On the other side is the large crystal known as the Legend Plate. Next to it, some sort of cocoon or egg. It seemed the Pokemon had gone into hibernation for the moment. That was good. It would make the experiments much easier. And that's where we'll be leaving things right now. So what do you guys think? Are you interested in seeing what Goh's next Project Mew mission will be? Are you surprised to see how strong Iris has become? And what do you think will happen with Oleana's experiments? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!